CarsIreland.ie. Click, click, vroom, vroom.
Hello and welcome back to the Cars Ireland YouTube channel. My name is Anthony and today we are taking a look around the Kia Sportage plug-in hybrid. Now it's not immediately obvious to separate this from the other models, but there is an obligatory badge on the back that says PHEV, plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, and there are two filler flaps on the back, one on either side, one for electricity and one for dino juice. Now I'm not a huge fan in commenting on looks because ultimately that is up to you, so I'm going to leave it to you to decide. You can see the pictures, but please do let us know what you think in the comments. And before we get into it, please do check out CarsIreland.ie to find over 40,000 cars for sale. Click the link above. Okay, let's get into it. It is powered by a 1.6 litre turbocharged petrol engine that is mated to an electric motor, and you get a combined power output of 265 PS. The 13.8 kilowatt hour battery is good for a range of up to 70 kilometers, and all plug-in hybrids are four-wheel drive. Now, as is the case for most plug-in hybrids, you do lose a bit of boot space thanks to the plug-in hybrid setup, so 540 litres versus 591 for the more traditionally powered Sportages. There's some quick release to drop the back seats. You also have a 12-volt charger. There's your boot. So in the back, you don't actually lose out in space like you do in the boot. I have plenty of space at 6 foot, good knee room and loads of headroom. Very surprising. It's well kitted out back here too. You have USB-C ports on either seat. You have a slot here for something. I don't know what this is for. Hanging stuff? I assume it's for hanging stuff. The seats are heated, windows are tinted. Nice slot in here for magazine, a little hook. You can control your air conditioning temperature back here too. You have two ISOFIX ports, center armrest. I'd be very comfortable back here. I think the only complaint might be if you had three and you're in the middle. But hey, middle seat is for the little person. You have an almost flat floor here in the middle too, and those doors open nice and wide. Let's look in the front. So up front in the Sportage, now to me this has a real premium feel to it. I mean, just look around, it looks excellent. It launches on the market with two specs, a K3 and a K4. Don't ask me what happened to K1 and 2, they're not there. But the starting price is 46,000 for the K3 and 48,000 for the K4. So if you do go to the K4 model, you get some extras like these leather seats that are called Iced Coffee, and that is very appropriately named, very accurate colour representation. You also get a 12.3 inch screen in front of the driver. The seats have memory built into them, and they are heated and ventilated, which most of the time I would say in Ireland ventilated is not great, but today they are greatly appreciated. It is 23 degrees at 11 o'clock in the morning. Oh, and wireless charging down here too, phone charging. I'd say for the most part you do not need the K4, but I really like these seats and I do like the contrasting colour here in the dash, that kind of toffee coffee look. Really gives it that premium feel. Also like the way the screens run across the dash here. Big long screen. Gives the effect of a big long screen despite being divided here in the middle. It is really well built, but if I was being picky, I'd say the rotary dial to select drive, neutral and reverse and all that is a bit cheap feeling. The armrest and center cubby also feels a tad cheap, and the USB port up front doesn't look amazing. Obviously being very picky here, other than that it feels really well built. Oh, the piano black panel here in the middle gets fingerprints very easy, which is very typical of piano black. It did take me a second to find the handbrake lever. You do expect it to be here in the middle bit, which is pretty typical of electric handbrakes nowadays. But I'm guessing it is a bit safer because it's up here behind the steering wheel, so no passenger can decide to do a handbrake turn while you're driving. No passenger or child could decide to do a handbrake turn while you are driving. There's some design elements that I'm also quite a big fan of. I do like the design around the air vents here on the dash, on the passenger side and on the driver's side, and the shape of the door handle is very satisfying. Don't know why, just like the look of it. We'll take it for a spin. Also, apologies for the sunglasses, because apparently, because you can't see your eyes, you shouldn't film with sunglasses because it makes you untrustworthy, but you can trust me. So there are three pretty common traits that I've realized from driving many plug-in hybrids at this stage. First one is the power outputs. So we have 265 PS here and a 0 to 100 kilometer an hour time of I think just over 8 seconds, 8.2. And the power outputs rarely feel like that in plug-in hybrids. So if you had 265 in a traditional petrol engine, it would feel rapid. Plug-in hybrids, I suppose just the way it's set up and stuff, it doesn't quite give off that feeling. And I would say the Sportage does sit in that category. You know, it's swift enough, it moves along nicely, you'd never find yourself in trouble. If you're overtaking, it wouldn't be an issue. It just doesn't feel like 265 PS. Second common trait of plug-in hybrids is the brakes. They can require a bit more effort, and they might catch you out if you haven't driven one before. You just have to line it up a bit longer, and you do have to press them a bit harder at times. Just keep that in mind. And I would say the Sportage also does suffer from that trait a bit. It's probably the extra weight of the batteries, and like I said, is pretty typical. You will get used to it, you'll learn it, but it is there. And the third issue I often have with them is how they transition from EV to petrol power. So in that moment where it decides I need the petrol engine, and on the Sportage, I'm happy to report really well. That gearbox is really suited to all this setup, and it's one of the better transitioning gearboxes, engines, motors, all that jazz. Now, as for comfort, I would say it is 90% there. The refinement is excellent. The only thing you really hear is a bit of wind noise around the wing mirror. Other than that, refinement is really good. The suspension, I think, could have done with maybe like 10% more comfort built in there. It is a teeny bit crashy. That might just be the extra weight on the suspension and what it requires for that setup to manage it. Just a tad bit more would have been ideal. Now, as for that quoted range of 70 kilometers EV range, I don't think that really is likely, but on a nice summer's day, and if you're doing the kind of driving that suits, I would say 60 is definitely achievable, and maybe more typically 50 to 60. I can't comment on winter range because it's been unbelievably warm this week, so pretty good for the battery. Although if it does get too hot, I think that isn't great for the battery either. So you need to be hitting that sweet spot, which at 25 degrees probably is it. In theory, if you keep it charged at home, you have a charger at home, you do only school runs, shop runs, town runs, you might never use any petrol at all. And then if you aren't really comfortable committing fully to the EV thing and you do the odd trip from Cork to Donegal, you'll have comfort in the fact that you can get there because we have petrol stations, and our charging infrastructure really isn't keeping up with the demand for EVs. It needs to pick it up. I'd say that's holding people back way more than the actual cars at this stage. As for steering, it's nicely weighted and actually suits the car really well. It's not too light. I actually would have expected it to be a bit lighter, which is kind of typical on these kind of cars. It's good weight in it. It's accurate. It actually handles that body roll really well despite the extra weight of those batteries. It's not a driver's car, but most crossovers aren't, but it's certainly enjoyable and perfectly acceptable. So we're taking her here, we'll take off. There's the engine kicking in. It is a bit loud and kind of gruff, not gruff. It's a bit loud and, what's the word? Not unrefined. It's fine, like you barely hear it, it's not a big deal. It just doesn't sound the nicest. Gets the job done though. We are cruising along now at 100 kilometers an hour, and as I said earlier, the only real issue is a bit of wind noise over that wing mirror. Refinement otherwise, really good. It is such a premium feeling product, and the stuff Kia are doing now, if you saw the stuff from 30 years ago, and then you saw this today, like chalk and cheese. If you want to dive into what the computer says about economy, this car has only done 550 kilometers, so barely broken in, not broken in at all, and it has averaged 5.8 litres per 100 kilometers over 17 hours of driving. Keep a plug-in hybrid charged and you will get excellent fuel economy if it suits your lifestyle. Ultimately, to encourage people to drive these more, I think we need charging at work and in offices where you can plug it in for 6, 7, 8, 12 hours, get a charge in work, head home, get a charge at home, and really not use much petrol power at all. Now, I've had the car for a week, I do not have a home charger. I have not been able to charge it at home. And since I've picked it up, it's actually getting 4.4 litres per 100 kilometers. Right, I'm not sure which one of us is going to stop working in this heat quicker, me or the camera. I think we need to wrap it up now. The price is going to be a sticking point for some people at just under €50,000. That is pretty typical at this corner of the market for a plug-in hybrid. And if I was on the lookout, I would put this towards the top of your list. It really is an excellent package. Great fuel economy, great looking interior. Outside, I think is going to divide opinion. Not everyone is going to be a massive fan. If you'd like to search Cars Ireland for a Sportage or any other model, please do click on the link above and join us next time for another video review. Bye bye.